We are shows what you know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, we'll watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jakob from Sweden.
Welcome to Maisel Men. That's right, Maisel Men. This is not some sort of Gilmore Guys. This is Maisel Men, where I get together with my best Maisel man and we discuss all things Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I am Jim Scampoli.
I am Jacob Burrows, and I'm, as always, excited to be selected as one of the Maisel men. It's such an honor because I love this show so much, and I'm glad we're going to get super popular now and going to be in season 3 of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because we got there first. We registered the domain, so if you go to maiselmen.com, that's us now. That means we get to be in season 3.
That's right. That's how much we love this show, and we are here to discuss episodes 5 through 8, the back half of the first season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Just a heads up, we will be getting into spoiler territory. If you are looking for a spoiler-free review, please listen to our previous episodes where we have a spoiler-free discussion before getting in episodes 1 through 4.
Yeah, I will admit to some trepidation as to how we are going to release this podcast weekly for the next year until season 2 comes out. But for now, you're right. You can check out our previous episode, not episodes. There's just one. But it's about quality, not quantity, which is the same I would say about this show. 8 episodes, and my stomach is full in a good way. Like we often say, not enough or too much. I don't know. I think this was a very good length of this first season. Do you feel the same?
I agree. I mean, it does leave you wanting more, but if anything, that's a good thing. I don't know if that's just a sign of us getting old, but we're like, hey, leave it at a nice 8 episodes. I mean, they maybe could have done 10, but I'll take the 8 because I don't think there was really much. There wasn't really anything I would have said was bad or was unneeded. It had a great flow, great characters, and then it just leaves you wanting more.
Yeah, it's tight storytelling, really. And I mean, Game of Thrones had 7 episodes, and there's just so much going on in that show that it wasn't enough this season. And in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, we have like these characters, and they are doing their shit. They're getting through the plot and getting to an appropriate and satisfying climax because we don't have like 18 storylines going on, so 8 is a good number. Do you want to start getting into the details of the episodes, or do you have anything else in general to say?
Well, like I was telling you recently, I've put it all together. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is a superhero show for many reasons. Number 1 being the title. We were going over Amy Sherman-Palladino titles in our last episode and how it doesn't ever seem to really nail it. But now that I think about it, now that I've seen the show, this title nails it. It's like the Spectacular Spider-Man, except it's the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Not only that, but Mrs. Maisel, she's dealing with a double life, a secret identity, if you will, because she's got one life that she lives in the day. You know, just another divorcee living at home with her parents, trying to make it in selling makeup or perfume or what have you, but by night, wowing audiences in all the clubs. Honing that craft, using her superpower, which of course is the gift of gab. I mean, who else has a better gift of gab than Midge Maisel? That's right. She is a superhero. Not only that, she is a budding, I guess, arch nemesis or villain, if you will, in
Sophie?
Joel Maisel. I would say Joel Maisel. Joel Maisel is the budding villain because, or existing villain, depending on who you talk to. Because there's this love-hate thing. She's everything he wants to be, and he's like the complete opposite. He's the Joker to her Batman. He's the Lex Luthor to her Superman. He's the Green Goblin.
So you're saying you don't ship them, that I assume then. Or maybe you ship them more than anyone.
Weirdly enough, when we get into it, I do ship them, actually. I kind of do, and I kind of do, and I kind of don't, and I feel like that's what the show's going for, maybe. Yeah. I'm stuck in this gray area, and all the best superhero stories have tons of gray area, murky territory to explore.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The only problem I see is it should have been called Marvel's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, of course. But I guess I agree with Joel is definitely the main bad guy. But I would see him going to Sophie's mansion and sort of she takes him under her wing because he's not good enough, but he can do like the big character or whatever. So he can learn from Sophie, who's sort of manipulating behind the corners from her mansion, which is even more superhero-y.
Sophie, I mean, there's every superhero has a rogues gallery of villains.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the main, like the be all end all's got to be Joel, but of course, Sophie Lennon's in the mix for sure.
Now, we joke kind of, but there's something to what you're saying. Just structurally, story wise, when she starts working at this makeup counter, I realized like this is so super exciting to me to watch her. And if the pitch for the show was it's about these 1950s housewife, right? But get this, she works at a makeup counter, right? And there's all this drama. I would not care. I wouldn't sit down to watch it. Maybe if it was made by the same people, it would be just as great. But in the end, it's because she has this secret identity and there's more stuff going on. This is like Peter Parker in high school, so it's more interesting than just high school.
Exactly, because I started putting this together once they had that episode ends with the tape, like where there's the recording of her like first getting on stage.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing like, oh my God, what if her family finds out? And now I'm like, this is Peter Parker when someone finds out who he is, and you got to keep that secret. And oh my God, everything's gonna change once people find out the truth.
Yeah. You did say she has a sidekick, right? Or Susie.
Of course, Susie's her sidekick, but also doubles as kind of like a mentor role as well. So it's kind of a little of both.
Well,
And
Lenny Bruce is a co superhero, of course.
oh, you're right. That's right. Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce is the Iron Man to her Spider-Man.
Exactly. And again, like this is actually kind of a useful way to look at when you're writing something. I think when you think like, what if I just take this stuff and put it, but I make comedy the superpower. You're right. That is the superpower because you have like, I mean, it's an oversimplification, but you kind of have similar beats of trying and failing and things like that actually makes it a super dynamic story because it's obviously like, that's the thing about story structure. Anything you can apply anything, and if it's useful to you, then that's the right way of thinking about it. You could also say it's a hero's journey. She's a hero or whatever. But I think given everything, saying she's a superhero is actually a really useful way to think about it.
I agree. So if you're trying to pitch this show to your friends and your friends are kind of dumb, just start to, like, I know like what Jacob's saying, this kind of sounds like a joke, but it works. It's all there. I imagine that Amy Sherman-Palladino has the board in the writer's room talking about the superhero's journey and how it all ties in with Midge Maisel.
Sidekick, the secret identity stuff is big. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we can add on top of that cake, but yeah.
Well, yeah, let's get into the episodes then. Let's get into where we're at. I mean,
episode 5. Yeah.
Yeah, where we left off, there was the budding friendship between Midge and Susie with their hot dog friend scene, and they were going out checking out comedy, and Midge has reverted back to being the child living in her childhood's bedroom, trying to figure out her life.
Yeah, and that's, she says, I've got to get a job, and that is where we start in episode 5. Doink is the name of the episode. It starts with her going to get the lift operator job, but she accidentally becomes a makeup counter girl instead. Again, with her being the most fabulous at everything and just kind of accidentally realizing that that's the job for her, and she goes and asks for it and gets it. But overall, I mean, this is the episode where she bombs, and that's what we were saying last time when she stood up at the political rally, and we were like, they love her too, huh? Like we felt that there needed to be some sort of downward swing here in this part of the story, and sure enough, this is one of the worst downward turns, where at the end of this episode she is like, she's given up on it because she obviously goes to the gaslight, tries to perform about her first day at work, and it just goes to shit.
Yeah, and it's done so well. It's so awkward, and it's so because as far as Midge is concerned, hey, I've gone up like 2 or 3 times, or anytime I talk in front of a crowd, I just say whatever's on my mind, and it works out great. I don't need to prepare anything. I just look around in my day and pull that, and it's great because it also shows how disconnected she is because she's like, time clocks, what are these about? Punching a clock, huh? And it's like working people there in the gaslight, so they're all like, who's this idiot? She's trying to like goof on a time clock. Yeah, we punch clocks all day. This ain't new. And she's just saying, she's trying to reference like, Mrs. So and so, huh? But no one knows who that is. No one knows your boss. They don't get your dumb impression. It's so awkward. It's such a perfect representation of a bomb. And then she's even got like the hecklers calling her out. And yeah, I feel like this was definitely needed. Like you said, we kind of were feeling it too in our last discussion because it did just seem so too effortless. And to an extent, we can buy it. Like when we see her go up kind of drunk, like dealing with all the drama of her life and just venting, we understand that can connect with an audience. But when she's just like happy-go-lucky going up talking about her day, it shouldn't work, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and she says, I've only done this drunk or stoned. What if that's the only reason I'm funny? And Susie's like, yeah, have you ever met a comic? I can't do that every time. You can't? No, you sure? But she tells her to prepare a little. And, Midge is listening to her party records or whatever they call them. No, yeah, from these different performances. And she starts putting, in a way she was preparing because they went to all the comedy shows and did all the research. But I guess she was just kind of hoping to absorb that and not actually write the material, right? That's what we're supposed to get from this.
Yeah, because she's taking notes on like mannerisms and stuff like that. But it didn't seem like the point got across that she should also be writing and structuring her material and jokes.
Yeah, there are some other bits and pieces here, scenes I wanted to just mention at least, that there's the part where she tells her parents that she's going to work, and her mother is just devastated and leaves the room, while Abe has become probably my favorite character in this back half. So he asks like 100 questions, he comes back into the room literally 6 times because he asked something and she has an answer for it, and he's like, okay, and he goes off, and then he's like, but you have to go every day, right? And these things that he's like, yes, I know, okay. So I liked it. He seems kind of proud in the end, but keeps double checking and triple checking. What did you get from that?
Yeah, I liked it because there's still that. I mean, part of it obviously is like the whole, time frame and the patriarchy, which still exists today, of course. But part of it is that, and part of it is just him knowing like his wife and his daughter, or what he thinks he knows of his daughter. He just assumes that his daughter is much like his wife, and of course there are a lot of similarities there. But Midge has this whole personality that going back to the superhero thing, that we're aware of, that even her closest people aren't. Like to us, we're like, yeah, of course, Midge is going to go get a job and she's going to kill it. But to her dad, it's still like, no, she's just a woman that needs a man to help her. And it's my little girl. And, but yeah, I like that it nails that tone of, he's being a dick, but he's also really proud and kind of, really happy for his daughter.
And what we come back to in these episodes is that Abe knows that Joel tried to come back, and Rose, the mother, does not, which is obviously becomes a huge source for conflict because she's still set on everything going back to normal, and Midge getting a job is a step away from that. So that's why there's another scene where she's not feeling it when Midge comes home with a lipstick as a gift, and I thought of you, and blah, 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 and I did this and that, and her mother is just not having it at all. She's not barely talking to her family at this point.
Yeah, because again, to her, it's hard to say it's not malicious. I guess it's kind of malicious, but to her, it's just there's a happy life she has herself and wants for her daughter. And she doesn't understand, like, this is all good. These are good things. Her daughter's becoming independent. But to her, it's like a weird shame thing, going back to you know, how she makes these extravagant stories of like, oh no, Joel, they're redoing the apartment and Joel is getting a promotion, and just these tales you have to tell to hide like the reality of your life.
Yeah. So heading back forward after she bombs, the first thing she does is look up a comedy writer. Like she doesn't even really try, which I guess is for expedience sake because we know she would kill it if she tried, kind of. But she just hated that feeling so much and lost so much of her confidence. It's not like it's not believable. Like you and I think have both at certain times thought about doing stand up, and it's not like it's not the fear of doing okay that scares us away. It's the fear of losing it completely and bombing, right? I mean, that's what the fear everyone has. And Susie says everyone bombs. So that means even if you get to become a successful stand up, you still have to bomb a lot. And that for me is like, okay, well, I'll just do podcasts, I guess.
Yeah, that way, if I'm bombing, I don't know.
Yeah, let me check the chat real quick. Are we bombing? Oh, there's no one there.
Yeah, and the joke writer is great.
Yeah, Wallace Shawn, Herb Smith in the show.
Yeah, that actor's great, and like it's weird because as the audience, I mean, you're very skeptical of it, obviously, but I think they do a good job of making you think like, well, wait, maybe it'll be good. Maybe he'll really help her.
Yeah.
And of course, then he comes back with a bunch of jokes on cards and a pickle.
Yeah. They have the scene in the stage deli, which becomes a recurring place for them to hang out in these episodes, and meets Herb and. Yeah, he's good. You're right. It's a balance of like, maybe he did a joke and he likes her comedy. No, in the end, the pickle kind of tells us no, he's not actually funny. And yes, that's she actually gets that when she's at work. She gets a package with the flashcards and the pickle.
Yeah, and to when she goes up, like this is where there's a little bit of like what we know of Midge. I kind of doubted that she wouldn't read these jokes. She would just go up on. I mean, I guess she's kind of rushed, is what the way they pitch it. But it started like that seemed a little flaky to me. That she's just gonna go up and just start reading them without even like glancing at them, and then even on stage being like, "Wait, I don't have a kid." Like really like the jokes aren't good no matter what. But then she's also helping tank it herself. It seemed a little bit off from when the Midge we've known for the past like 4.5 episodes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I can buy it because she's the person who's always been able to do everything, and now she has this job, and all of a sudden she doesn't even know what's going on in her own home. She has this, one of the things that Abe says okay to is she's going to leave her kids with this lady who took care of her when she was young, and then she comes home and the kids are just there, and her mother's like, that lady's a drunk, and she like, there's so much going on, and she is not used to working, and she is rushed by Susie. I mean, at the same time though, after having just done that, bombed, and hated it so much, she should have realized she needed to take a bit of time to prep, obviously, but it wasn't too hard for me to swallow, even though obviously everyone watching had a sense of, well, this is not going to go well. So in a way, she should have as well.
Yeah. And one thing I do like about this episode, because I was even thinking it during the episode, because, you know, to Midge, when she's just starting a new job, it's kind of this cool thing, like, oh, hey, I'm going to go to my job for a while. And a little bit to Abe's point, I started being like, oh man, but like to regular people, jobs aren't just like a fun thing to go to and get to hang out. And I do like that, you know, by the end of this episode, you do see like more of a day-to-day type Midge, where it's not like a chippy, like I'm going to work. It's like, oh, here we go. I gotta go punch a clock and do this for a while. And, you know, then I gotta try to think up jokes. So like kind of more of a reality starts to set in a bit, which I like to see.
Yeah, and she's still the belle of the ball, though. When she goes to a party and everything, she just naturally is the best, of course. But moving back, when she does bomb, like Herb is there, and like as Susie reveals, like he just tells the same jokes to everyone. You did this without talking to me, and this is where we get, you know, it's a really bad situation because Susie's upset about that, and Midge is obviously super upset having just bombed. And they have a big fight, It's kind of like we always talk about how Amy Sherman-Palladino is great at mixing in the drama with the comedy and everything, and this fight, like, it really kind of hits you a bit. Like, it's a hurtful kind of fight, and yet in the next episodes, it's not like they need to have a big moment and be apart for a long time. They can actually deal with it like regular people, kind of coming together and like, so we said some stuff. So you're sorry, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway. So the thing that actually eventually starts tearing them apart is more, more other things coming in, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask about that because they don't really have this big scene where we have to explain that we're on good terms again. It's just because this fight, it does seem like, oh, this is it. Like, Midge is quitting again. They're not cool anymore. But it is kind of, I like that it just is, they're kind of just talking again in the next episode. There's not like a big to-do around like someone coming in for their comeuppance or whatever for the fight. They're both kind of just back together working for the good of the comedy.
Yeah, although if there's one answer to that for me, it's that they do have the big scene at the end of episode 6, the next episode. Like it's not the fight itself that's caused this to happen. Like, because at the end and at the start of the next episode, they still want to be in the same place and get to the same place. They have joined together hopes and dreams and things, but they're heading in different directions and they're having different issues. And it's the big scene at the end of 6. After that, they're cemented together. So in a way, the fight kind of continues, even though they're talking. They're not on the same wavelength at all over the next episode. So in a way, the conflict goes on until the big scene at the end of episode 6.
Yeah, that's completely true. I liked how that's handled, though, because most shows would have to have a thing before they're back at because, like, basically she invites her to one of the parties because she's working the party circuit, and most shows would have to have a moment where they talk like, oh, hey, hey, Zerboy said, hey, anyways, can you come to this party? It just kind of drops you back into it. And then you're right, comes back up again when they have another kind of row with each other. Now, backing up a quick, in episode 5, is that when we also see Joel trying to like make his new relationship between like with his, going out to a play with his friends and going out to dinner with his parents?
Yeah, I was going to say he goes to dinner with Penny Pan and his parents, and they're so nice and affable with her. And then when she's away, they both say, nope, no,
yeah.
No, you're not doing this.
Yeah, and then his friend at work is talking about how, his wife's so looking forward to this Broadway show or what have you, and then they're going to double date, and it's kind of like everything's going to fall back into place. He's just another married guy with his new wife, but even his friend's wife is like, nope, we don't. There's this inner circle, and whatever Penny brings to the table, it is not wanted.
Yeah, because he does plan to go and see the show. I guess Trouble in River City, which is the great exit music in that one, where his buddy calls and Imogen's just in the background flipping a paper, and they don't need to say it, but we realize that he was just like, oh yeah, the show, of course. And then he went home, and she's like, what? Go with Penny Pan? So they're obviously not going, so they get to sit there and they're with 2 empty seats next to them at the end of the episode.
Yes, yeah, and and then Midge has kind of consoled herself, or is basically protecting herself from bombing by just being at a party and having people gather around as she spins some yarns for the crowd, and that's kind of where episode 6 picks up as well.
Yeah, that's episode 6, Mrs. X at the Gaslight, which, as you mentioned, that's at the very end of the episode. They're dubbing the disc of her first performance. But yeah, she falls into this party thing, which at the time I was thinking, this is fine. She can like work on her stuff or whatever. But actually, it's also obviously like her going to a place of comfort and like getting comfortable there and not going to leave it ever, probably.
Yes, yeah, and then she even gets to run in with another guy who likes to do improv bits at the party circuit as well, apparently, and they kind of do a little like a little duo type bits in front of the party. Yeah,
the Hitler bit, which was pretty good. Pretty good Hitler bit.
Pretty good. And that's kind of the good and bad of what we're talking about with the 8 episodes is we could see that they're planting something here with this character, but there's not really time to get into it, which is fine. I mean, that's something we can explore later because I assume, because we see this guy a few times, I assume that's kind of going to be a thing, right?
I mean, I assumed the point was to build it up to the level of her going to, because what happens is they have a few scenes and then he comes to her work and says, come have dinner, I'll have a proposition. So we get to the meeting with the agent from William Morris, which is an agency that still exists and is very famous, manage everyone. So that kind of amps up the whole conflict with Susie, obviously.
Yes, but what I mean is, I know about that, but because that turns into more about that agent and being like, this agent's pulling shit and this agent wants to get in her pants or he wants to use her up and spit her out. But it never really, we don't get collateral damage on the character, on the actual comedian guy who makes the introduction.
Yeah, he's kind of gone after this because it's, as you said, it's there's no room for it. I'm sure it'll be in season 2, but probably not very prominently. Like, it almost feels like she was flattening out there, and now she's going to shoot off like a star, so he's not going to be as relevant, but we've seen that he is funny. It's not just that he's like some idiot trying to drag her down.
Correct. Yeah. And what's the duo that they compare themselves to? I can't.
Nichols and something, or it's Nichols and May.
Yeah.
And like the thing that, sorry to cut you off. The thing that the Susie tells her, like, you're basically gonna be like a magician's assistant, just standing there looking pretty. You're not gonna do this is not you. You have a chance to be someone unique and start something. Like, you could be an icon. Maybe it's Knuckles and May. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I think nope. That's a Sonic the Hedgehog meme. That's Google was trying to auto suggest me to. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a real thing, but yeah, that's what they were talking about. Do you know if it's real?
Yeah, Nichols and May. I didn't know offhand, but yeah, I pulled it up. It was a Grammy Award-winning American improv comedy duo act developed by Mike Nichols and Elaine May. They have 3 comedy albums that reached the top 40 between 1959 and 1962. Like, you think you're Nichols and May? I did because I mean that's nothing I'd ever heard of, but I just love the way they're throwing the reference around. I enjoy it.
And that, like, she didn't even know who they were. Of course she doesn't want to be that. But there's some other scenes in between here as well, like Abe's fantastic whole sequence of him working, and then some gentlemen come along with a bit of an offer, and he's like looking at his watch. He's like, I don't know, like, I have to grade papers, and then they're from Bell Labs, and he's like, have I heard, what is it? Tell me more. And he kind of hangs out, and then he comes home, and he's like, we're going to dinner. Like, he's always wanted to work at Bell Labs, and I just love him as so much for, like, blue balling them like that, like, maybe we'll talk about it. And he's like his highest wish of working there. So
even the way he brags about it to his wife, he's like, you should have seen me. I was like, oh, Bell Labs, what is that? And then becomes clear as even Midge is like, ever since I was a kid, all I ever talked about was how I wanted to work for Bell Labs. And then this is where we get to meet Noah and Astrid. And I have to say, it's definitely like a talent of the Palladinos, because this Astrid character comes in and she's not really on the show a lot, but like I immediately feel for her, like the way she's written and the way she's portrayed, because she's trying so hard to be Jewish and to fit in with the family. And as we've seen with someone like Penny on Joel's side, you can easily be excommunicated with, like, the nod of your cap when they don't want to accept you. And like both Noah, who's Midge's brother, and Astrid with little screen time, like, I loved these characters for some reason.
Yeah, and they, like, kind of similar to the comedian guy. Like, they're only here. They're not in it that much, but they're there, and they feel totally real, and they're like a promise of more great stuff to come, really. Because it's, as you say, like, if you were just writing one season, would you give them this much of a personality? Would it matter? Like, they would be there to serve a function in the story. And I mean, yeah, sure, they're doing that here too, but just having her there in the kitchen showing off the rabbi trading cards and her whole worry about him leaving her and him saying, no, why are you worried about that? And that worry is what's actually causing them to have issues at all. It's just a promise of great things to come. And I don't know how much of like being able to plan that is helped by them having 2 seasons ordered at the same time, because obviously they've kind of broken the story, I'm sure, for a lot of it in one go. So these characters there's no question that they're coming back and they're going to be central. But even just in it for a little bit, they're so great.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and yeah, because that leads to, they go out to dinner at a Chinese restaurant to celebrate Abe's new job, and of course Joel and Penny are also at the same restaurant, much to everyone's chagrin.
Yeah. I mean, we have some other clips pulled up, but I just have to mention the greatness of his story about the math teacher that Abe tells when he was a little young kid. And, his math teacher got him to grade the papers and said, wow, Abe, you are a mathematical genius. And I think it's Midge's sister-in-law who says, wow, that's beautiful. Did you keep in touch with her? He's like, that idiot? No, she had mistakes in the things. I immediately transferred out of her class and she left the school on my recommendation.
So great. And then the thing is, we haven't talked about Joel a lot. I mean, obviously we will when we get into these upcoming episodes, where because even here, I believe him. Like I believe Joel. There's no malice behind what he's doing when he's like, oh my God, I only came here because I didn't think this is the one spot I thought you wouldn't be. I'm not trying to mess with your family, and I don't want people to hate me any more than they do. But in just true Joel fashion, he's such a schmuck that everything he does is wrong.
Yes. And this is where he gets to see that she's not wearing her wedding ring anymore, and he is. So I mean, we were already talking about this, but she has a cigarette with her brother on the fire escape, and talk about their worries and things. His wife worried about him leaving her and so on.
It's a nice moment, and like we said, it's like a short moment, but it tells you so much about their relationship. And even when he says something even though he's a character we just met in this episode, we haven't even really spent a lot of time with him, but when he tells Midge you were the funny one, you're always the funny one. To me, that still means a lot. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe Mitch's brother, he believes in her and he's telling her all this stuff. So I just really liked how they did so much with so little.
Not to hammer home our point, but it's kind of like when Peter Parker is just hanging out in regular real life, and then his friend said something that's just eerily relevant to his superhero adventure that's going on behind the scenes, saying, sometimes when there's a big gap between 2 buildings, you just gotta jump. But he's saying it as a metaphor, and he's like, I am Spider-Man. I just have to believe in myself, and he jumps. So yeah, well done, Noah.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so Susie also goes, well, first, Joel and Penny, this is where Joel leaves her. After all of these things, seeing the wedding ring and everything, they're on the way home in a cab, and she leaves, and he goes into the office.
Yes. Yep.
Not a very big scene. Didn't really need to be, but it's a moment.
Yeah, and it's another one of those where it happens. It's kind of like a small thing, but it's all there. But I was still surprised when we pick up in the next episode, it's like, oh yeah, I guess that's a real thing. When Joel's just in his room, back in his childhood room.
Yeah. And we have another scene before the big one where Susie goes and mob style intimidates the William Morris agent, kind of sitting behind his desk, flipping through his things, smoking a cigarette, you'll never. And he, tells him to stay the hell away from her client.
Yes. Yeah. And it's because this show, I mean, obviously this show has deep feminist roots, and the struggle of a female, especially in comedy, never mind comedy today, but comedy in the late 50s. But it never feels, because this is kind of that scene. This is kind of like a girl power scene, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel empty, I guess, where a lot of times they'll be like, oh, here's the part. Like, because Susie's smart, Susie knows her shit, and she's looking out for the best of Midge. That's why, she doesn't want her performing at parties. She doesn't want her being in duos. So I don't know if we should just we could play a clip of that scene we were talking about.
Yeah, the big scene where Susie and Midge have their talk. Let's play a bit of that.
This party circuit thing you got going on, I don't know what you really think it is, but it's not stand-up. It's not a gig. It's a party. You are not getting paid. You are not getting booked, and those people are not a real audience. They are politely nodding at you while they drink free booze, and then they talk about the crazy lady who wouldn't shut up the whole night.
I know they're not real gigs.
Do you? Because it doesn't seem like it. And second of all,
First of all,
you do not need a goddamn man at your side to do this. What the hell are you thinking? You really want to be some second-rate Nichols and May? Because there's already a first-rate Nichols and May. It's fucking Nichols and May. Now, you could be an original, but you are fucking it all up with this cockamamie alternate universe party bullshit. You want to do this?
yes.
Do you?
Yes.
I can't tell anymore. You want me to get rid of the phone? Because I can get rid of the phone.
Do not get rid of the phone.
I don't need to have a goddamn phone. I don't have anybody I have to call. I got that phone for you, for this partnership that I thought we were starting.
We are.
Does your new agent know that?
He's not my...
You do not meet with any agents without me knowing about it, ever.
I did not know he was going to be there. I swear.
Bullshit! You're not an idiot! Just drop this doe-eyed Bambi thing right now. I'm so sick of you acting all innocent. Oh, I don't know how the world works because I'm a housewife and I wear 4 layers of petticoats. It is tired and it is weak, and you are not tired and you are not fucking weak. And if you want to be a comic, you are going to have to grow the fuck up right now.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to do lately. I'm trying to be strong and independent, but I saw Joel the other night and he was with her, and every time I think I can breathe again, I can't. And I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to figure it out. I know the parties aren't gigs. I know I'm not really doing stand-up. I don't want to be a second-rate Nichols and May. I'd never even heard of Nichols and May, and I've got news for you. If you're going to be a personal manager, then sometimes you're going to have to deal with the personal, and this is personal.
Wow, for your consideration. Consideration. I think she did get nominated for an Emmy, didn't she?
Yeah, as she should. I cried. Yeah, Susie. I cried a lot when I watched that scene the first time. I wrote on twitter.com/Jakob Burrows that it almost embarrassing how Mrs. Maisel is just so good, the show, that it makes me emotional.
No, I agree, because there's so much great stuff going on in that scene, because we're seeing Susie's vulnerability as well, which is not something we're used to, and we're getting kind of the magnitude of how much she believes in Midge and how much she believes in this relationship. Like when she says something, when she even says, "You want me to get rid of the phone?" and you're like, "No, don't get rid of the phone." And then of course with Midge, because we don't see Midge like that. We don't, even though we know, obviously, her relationship with Joel's a big deal. We don't see her breaking down like that. And, it hammers home how hard it is when she sees him in public with some other lady, even though to us, we're kind of like, you're Midge Maisel. You got it all. What do you need this Joel for? But I like that the show keeps trying to tell us and remind us, no, there's more to this than what we, the viewer, see. Yeah. And there is a real relationship there. Because the easy thing would just to be, oh, Joel's a schmuck, which he is, and they do lay that out as well. But I feel like there's enough there where you understand why it's a big deal. And yeah, this scene, the scene's incredible. It's so much, and especially it's our two heroes, and we're getting that moment where they're kind of really telling each other what they need. And when Midge has to tell her, you're going to have to deal with some of this stuff. You're going to have to tell me I'm good when I'm not. and yeah, know when to give me tough love, but know when to console me and comfort me. So it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, and she exactly says, sometimes you need to just fucking pat me on the back, and she literally does. And then, even though she doesn't know how, and she says, "Tomorrow we're signing some fucking paperwork." Like, it's great for the reason you said about making us realize more how real and important the relationship is, because the next couple of episodes wouldn't work without that, because it gets it more into Joel and Midge. Because previously, when she's broken down about it, but she's done it in such a terrific home run way on stage, like, we forget that her jokes are a freaking coping mechanism, and that's why she was hilarious, because she was just spitting out poison, but that doesn't mean the poison actually leaves her body. It's still there. She's still feeling like shit. And it's also a great scene, because... And I mean, it's a great scene on its own, but just for, I think, a lot of people viewing the show, and a lot of people who should be viewing the show who aren't. But a lot of people can appreciate, I think, the feeling of being on your creative grind and trying to get somewhere and fighting for that. It's like, it's a superhero thing, but it's also got the vibe of, anyone trying to accomplish something for themselves that people don't necessarily believe in. And she found Susie, who's like the one person who believes in her more than anything, but everything is also falling apart. And I don't know, when you work on something really hard and you just have to keep believing in it, that's a hard feeling that a lot of people go through. It would be easy for her to fall back and just do the party circuit, being the lady that, and I mean, Susie says it quite brutally, but like they laugh and smile and drink their free alcohol, and then they go home and talk about the lady who wouldn't shut up all night. Like, it's easy to fall into becoming that and not aiming for where you want to get, and that's why also this is such a great motivating show to watch for anyone working in anything creative, I think.
Yes, yeah, and I also like that Susie says this, like, don't give me the, I'm the clueless housewife, but I like that there's truth to it. Like, Susie kind of doesn't understand that a lot of it is true. Like, she kind of doesn't know what's going on. Like, she's not playing an aloof character when she meets an agent and assumes like this could be a good thing. I mean, it is a bit much that she doesn't tell these things to Susie, like with the jokes and all that. But I don't think she's putting on an act. I think she clearly doesn't know what's going on sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get a couple of tail bits of this episode. First, where Abe is signing the Bell Labs paperwork and finds out in a roundabout way about his daughter's arrests. And I was really terrified that that would be the end of Bell Labs for him, or that it would end with Midge needing to choose one or the other or something like that. And maybe that would have raised the stakes more, but I certainly liked it better that they didn't go that route. This is only how he finds out about the arrests and finds out that something is extremely off. It doesn't lead to him finding out about the comedy, strangely. It just sort of cements to him that something's off about his daughter.
Yes, yeah, and we've kind of learned that Abe does this, where he finds out about something and he keeps it in. I mean, eventually it's going to come out, and probably in some weird, argument from what we know about him. But yeah, he'll find out a thing and be disappointed by it, but he'll hold it in because, he still, he loves his wife. He loves his daughter. He doesn't want to really rock the boat, so he's trying his best. But yeah, that's kind of just like a ticking time bomb with him.
Yeah, so that's the episode. We also get them dubbing more discs of Mrs. X, which does sound as well like a superhero thing, obviously. But that leads us into episode 7. Put that on your plate, where Midge sees her parents moving their beds apart, which kicks off a great comedy writing montage, which is, I think, a montage of a sort that I've never seen before, but it's so great to see her jokes evolve, and we get the passage of time, and we get it where she tells a version of a joke and has different clothes another day and tells another version of it and sort of punches it up, and within just a few minutes they're done and they're in the stage deli and realize she has a tight 10, she has a tight 11 even.
Tight 11. And I can't tell, I don't know if I'm just biased towards this show, but I feel like the comedy works. The stand up really works, and especially in a sequence like this, and it legit is, you see the joke get better, and but it makes sense. I don't know, like there's a lot of things, movies or whatever, when they try to get into the psyche of a stand-up, and usually the comedy doesn't really come off as like believable, that the audience, it's killing with an audience. But I feel like whatever they're doing here, it's one of the biggest things that they could mess up, but I feel like they're nailing it.
Yeah, and they got like they can write on different levels. They can write the joke that's kind of just an idea of a joke, like when she like brings up a thing that happens in her life, and it kind of gets some chuckles, and then evolves it into something that has more of a punchline, and then evolves it into a great joke. Like they can write all of those levels, and we see the progression. And usually when it's like a story with stand up, it's like, you know, the actual writing of the comedy is almost left as a mysterious sort of thing. Like it's almost like, you know, the equivalent of someone writing a novel and sitting with a typewriter in it with a storm outside the window, like, and then magic happened, and then there were jokes. But we actually get to follow along here, which is super gratifying.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And then it's fun to see them be excited about this Title 11 they got, and kind of making plans for the future. But I mean, as we know, it's a TV show, so things just can't get great and then stay great.
Yeah, I mean, what is great is the scene in the stage where Sue gets emotional over how funny Midge is, and she starts crying, and like that really shows now they're bonded together. Like they're not, like nothing's gonna fuck up their thing now. Now they're on the same page and they're working towards the same thing. So even though Midge kind of fucks up everything they're shooting for, it's still not like fuck you for doing this. It's like, okay, what do we do now because you did this thing? So yeah.
And before we get further into that, we see a young Joel after his bar mitzvah, and kind of what his, how, like, it's almost, it explains a lot as far as his origin story as the villain who has to put up appearances, because we see that that's his dad is just straight telling him this, like, it's all about how people perceive you, so you do what you can to get those appearances, to make the world think you're something, because then that'll make you that thing that they think you are. And it's a fun scene, because then like young Joel's like shadowboxing and stuff around his dad, as his dad's saying, like, you know, we could have got the bowling alley or whatever it was, we could have got it for free, but you know, it smells like beer, and it's and people would have known we got it for free. And then it's a nice cut to Joel back in his childhood bedroom, also living at home, much like Midge is, but way more pathetic, because we know he doesn't really have anything going for him.
Yeah, and his mother chastises him about the dirty magazines under the bed. Bad boy, she says. So yeah, it's not a great situation to be in. I mean, his father literally, like, it's such a great moment of him saying, like, okay, let me sit you down and tell you some wisdom. There's time you knew. That cousin of yours who was a World War II pilot or whatever, not actually your cousin. But he says it like, that's what you need to learn from this. It's not like, sorry, I lied. It's like, take this into your heart. Lie to people about who you are, and when they believe you, it's true.
And now, and because then it starts, as the audience, now I'm second guessing the story of the 13. Like, where are we at with the 13 now? Because that's a story he's always telling, and we know that he has to, you know, make the perception.
Supposedly he's there. I mean, they are working for him, but maybe, you know, if you don't, you could just point out people and say, which one was it? You know, this week it was that one and that one. Who knows? It's true. That's a good point. But after the magazine's under the bed chastisement, he does get to have a kick-ass moment at work where he is kind of bleary-eyed, dead inside, but they're talking about how they can't get the chemical supplies and everything, and he's like, yeah, if we don't got a business, and you're the listener or viewer is like, fuck, Joel, stop fucking everything up. But then he pitches this idea that they open their own lab, scout scientists, get all the chemical supplies, and the CEO or whoever he is, he's kind of feeling this idea, and things are starting to look up for Joel.
Yes, yeah, he's actually got an idea, and he has something of his own that he can make into a thing. And as we see, like, as his storyline progresses through this episode, his main thought is he wants to provide for Midge and the kids. So it's just tough because we know Joel, so we know like how he can be pretty wishy-washy. But when it comes down to it, he does try to do the right thing for the most part.
Yeah. In the next scene, we have Midge and Imogen doing the party bags for Ethan's birthday, and Abe keeps coming out of his study to chastise them again for being very loud and getting names wrong, and it's a very nice scene. The overall ending impact of it is that they're trying to get the story straight of who knows what, and Abe kind of hears everything and realizes with everyone thinking different things and also knowing that his daughter's been arrested, he decides to do something where I'm jumping ahead, but I'm going to go to that next, which is they're making a very soft dinner because he's bringing his coworker, and the only coworker he ever brings is this extremely old man. But instead, he brings a young, handsome coworker. And it's just a great double turn in this scene because first, the turn is that they're calling him a pimp in French. Obviously, you're trying to set Midge up with this guy, and that's what we think as well, the viewers. Like, it's a good turn then when they sit down at the table and Abe just kind of drops. So this guy's a divorce lawyer, just out of nowhere. So again, escalating it as they go into the study, and of course, Rose is still hoping that they'll end up back together, and. It's a good double turn. We get his motivation and obviously the frustration from the rest of the family at this happening without them having any say.
Which works well because they also play with the audience expectations and what we as viewers expect with Susie's storyline, because Susie is setting up a gig for Midge, to open for a huge comic, but she's talking about how it's going to be a bomb and she's going to bomb in front of a huge crowd. So we keep I'm totally expecting this is going to drive a wedge in their relationship, because then if Midge finds out this was the plan all along, even if it's for her own good, maybe she's not going to take well to it. But it's all just smoke and mirrors basically, which I appreciate, because I didn't expect it to go where it goes.
Yeah, and I guess I had a hard time telling how much she actually expected her to bomb. I think she was partially saying that just to clarify, no, we know this is a shit gig, but she has so much confidence in that tight 10. But then, as you say, it would probably be good for her too, but maybe not as her first excursion outside the gaslight to do really terribly. So I kind of think she would do average at that place, and that would be a great lesson to her. I don't know.
I read it as completely like Susie knew and wanted her to bomb.
Okay.
And then they were going to probably have some other gigs beforehand. I thought the plan was originally going to have some shit gigs and then open for... what's her name?
Sophie. Yeah.
Now, it could be just because I watch a lot of medical dramas, and this is like a common trope in the medical drama where a mentor will set a surgeon up on a no-win case,
right?
And then they'll lose a patient, and they'll be like, "See, but you did everything you could, and you tried, and now you learned the greatest lesson, and you're always going to do anything you could." But I totally read it as one of those. I thought, because we already saw that Midge hates bombing, and that maybe she has a tight 11 and she's doing great, but if she could see that it's not all, even with a tight 11, you could still fail. I thought that was going to be the whole lesson. Yeah, Kristen's in the chat. George O'Malley from Grey's Anatomy. He was set up to fail, but it was just so he learned an important lesson.
Well, I guess it could be an MD Maisel type situation. I can't rule that out. But when I was watching it, I didn't think that. I thought at the time that she was just saying whatever to this agent to get him to book it, and I don't know. It does, we do get to see this Sophie Lennon gig, or not this one, but a different one. Her big Queen's character, and she gets to meet them afterwards and meet Harry and get invited to her home, and everything's going swimmingly. And I guess you're right, because if she bombed, it wouldn't be negative for her career. The agents all know that she will bomb, so her actually doing that, and Harry goes to see her at the gaslight first, so it's kind of like getting in their good graces as well by taking a gig that no one else would take and showing it would be a lesson for her as well. So I guess in the end you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it just totally reminded me of that type of storyline. But then they go a completely different place with it, anyways, because as we see with Sophie Lennon, who is very much like, I guess, their version of like a female Larry the Cable Guy for the late 50s, kind of like, she wears a fat suit and holds like a duster or something, and just says like, "I'm a big fat loser," and everyone starts laughing.
Yep.
I just assumed this was a real comic as well, but I looked it up. I don't think it's not a real person. It's just someone they made up for the show.
Well, on bustle.com, they have an article called "Is Sophie Lennon a real comedian?" Nope.
No.
But, she did represent an outdated and sadly sometimes persistent point of view regarding female comedians. On stage, Lennon is a cartoon. She speaks with a thick Queen's accent and blah, blah, blah. So,
I mean, that's true, but I mean, like, no, that's just comedic. Like I said,
yeah, for sure.
Like, it's just, it's a lowbrow, easy, like low hanging fruit. I mean, it very well could work a lot for female comedians to have to take like an easy route, but it just, it's basically any hack that just does a fake thing for fake goofs.
Well, what's even more important about Sophie Lennon, Jim?
What's that?
Well, we get to see her we get to see her as the mayor first, and then we go behind the scenes and see her evil laboratory, and when we find out that she's a fucking villain, like she's the big friendly character, ha ha ha, and then scheming, Machiavellian behind the scenes, because we get to the house, this stiff upper class, hilarious, like 20 butlers for no reason house. And I don't know how much of what she was doing you felt was like condescending, and how much was just, what a weird fucking person. Like, it was kind of hard to, but I mean, a great scene still. I guess she was trying to take her under her wing, but also, like, obviously she's like laughing, like, ha, you ate a macaroon, how droll. Like, it's kind of cartoony.
Like macaron or something. Like, she says it weird because she says it like condescending way, and even like, oh, you like kitchens? Oh, I love that about you. I've never even seen my kitchen. And I mean, and then it gets pretty like pretty risque and kind of insulting when she's here's a tip: cover that hole up. No one wants to hear a woman laugh. No one wants to hear a funny woman. Get out there and they just want to fuck you and all that stuff. Like, it's hammered home pretty well, and I like that it's done. Like, they could easily just have some dude character be like, "Women aren't funny. Cover that pussy up, you dumb bitch." Mm-hmm. But I think it's more effective that it's done by a successful female comedian in this universe, because she's like it's worked for her, so that's what she thinks is the only option.
Yeah, and there's one scene. There's a couple of scenes before this where Abe does finally reveal to Rose, after their big fight, after the divorce lawyer reveals that, no, Joel actually tried to come back, and Midge said no. And as always happens in real life and in stories, she's actually more hurt by them keeping this from her than by the actual fact itself, because she doesn't know her family anymore. She doesn't even know her fortune teller, because she goes to see the fortune teller and she's been fucking replaced.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, by the union? Is there a union? Or, I don't know, do they have different time slots, or did she just quit? I'm not sure, but there's a different fortune teller, so everything is terrible.
Well, and it's so great how the new fortune teller is so flippant about her career, and about, like, she's kind of like, oh yeah, we tell fortunes here? Like, it's such a, hey, this is all fake, you're stupid, why are you even here type attitude. But hey, we still accept cash or charge, or whatever they have charged. I don't know. Think debit cards here? You take Apple Pay?
Joel also goes to Abe at his work with his plan, his whole plan of how he's going to provide for the family. And Abe, who's had these great moments, can I see you in the bedroom for a moment? Had these great scenes, and like this spite and anger. He actually gets to see Joel as not the biggest schmuck ever, because he tries to provide everything for his family, and yet he's not providing himself. He's saying, "If the work takes me to the fucking West Coast or whatever, then I'll do whatever I need." And he's kind of like, "Fucking Joel, you fucking," and he kind of, the energy goes out of him because he's been so beaten at this point.
And yeah, he's like, "I'm good at math, and this leaves nothing for you." So Joel wants to just kind of give it all up and provide for Midge and the kids, and kind of try to do the right thing and make good for messing everything up, basically.
Yeah. And everything with Rose, Midge's mother, comes to a head in the synagogue conflict where her mother sees the fur coat that Sophie Lennon gives her, because she's worn it twice, so she should not be wearing that again. So she has this big fur coat, and that's kind of takes Rose over the edge, where she actually starts cursing and yelling, and I don't deserve to know anything then, right? And it's a big scene. She causes a big scene, goes against everything.
Yes, everything we know about her is
yeah,
going out of her way to make up stories and to keep things, kind of keep images as they are, as this happy Jewish family. So for her to cause a big scene in the middle of the synagogue, it's a big deal.
Which leads us to the scene where Maisel has an opportunity to get her big shot. Harry, the agent, is there to look at her tight 10 and everything. It's going to be great. And because of this conflict, I mean, this is what we were talking about when we were saying, like, her real life is going to influence the comedy, and the comedy is going to influence her real life, and she's going to write jokes about her real life and everything. She goes off book due to this conflict with her mother, and due to Sophie Lennon, and due to everyone telling her what to be. She kind of kills it and goes off book. But of course, Harry is extremely upset because she kills it by also killing Sophie Lennon, or like stabbing her at least, telling everyone about this secret identity she's not supposed to talk about, honor amongst thieves and all that. So they it's not that they don't have Harry on their side. They're on Harry's bad side now, and he's like, it's been shown the difference between Harry and Susan, or Susie, as far as like what level they're at. So they're kind of fucked at this point, but she does kill it.
Yes, yeah. She basically goes off, outs everything, talks about how it's just a big phony fat suit, and she's a rich bitch, and yeah, and he takes it as it's almost, whether is this a setup? What are you trying to do here? And to Susie, like, this was her in, like, this was her connects, and this guy is connected. He's got connections all over. It's one of those, you'll never work in this town again, Toots. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And I mean, it works well because it's all up, like, her, what she's actually saying on stage is all about her conflicts within herself as well, and with her mother and everything, where it's about, like, why do women pretend to be what they're not? Why do we have to pretend this and that, and pretend so hard that it'll, like, become true? Kind of connects with what Joel is doing as well. So it's all very good, even if it's basically bad for her. Which brings us to episode 8, which is called Thank You and Good Night, where they're drinking away their misery at the start.
Yes, yeah, they're drowning their sorrows, and there's like kind of like a crackhead type lady that's coming up for money, but she's also like, "Oh, you're so funny, calling Sophie Lennon a bitch. It was great."
Yeah. Leading into the hungover phone conversation the next day, where Susie's reading articles on the performance about her career suicide and everything, and Midge is like, "Yeah, but they said it was funny, right? So what's the problem?" And they're making a plan. As you mentioned, you've already got these 2 shit gigs booked up, so I guess we'll do those, and maybe then 2 more shit gigs, and then they're throwing up on the phone, and it's a nice little scene.
Yeah, and to like you had said before, how the previous episodes had built up that their relationship is kind of bulletproof now, and this is a nice nice moment to see that, because maybe people think the way it ended that Susie's gonna be like so pissed off at Midge and she doesn't want to talk to her, she fucked everything up. But no, they have this nice moment because they've already drowned their sorrows at the bar. Now they're on the phone, hungover. Midge is under her like hiding under her blankets, and Susie's throwing up in between comments, and they're gonna still make a go for it. They're gonna try, hey, no one man is gonna get in the way of these two independent women that are gonna take over New York City.
Yes, which will later bring us to all the different ship names, but we'll get into that in a moment. So, small note at home for Midge. She realizes that the study and dining rooms have changed places, which is great because it's a thing that happens when there's a big fight or argument. Something needs to change, and in this case, Rose is not like gonna move out and move in with her parents, because she would never do that. And also her parents, I don't know if they're around, but she instead takes the study away from Abe, who just in a sort of exhausted way is sitting in huge piles of books in what used to be the dining room. So yeah, great scene there.
Yes, yeah. And then I loved seeing the alt comic ventriloquist is at the birthday party.
Oh yeah.
For, Ethan. It's such a great little, like, just kind of little Easter egg, I guess, or callback, what have you. And then, you know, with the birthday party, we start to see like, Joel and Midge, what's going on? Things are kind of seeming like old times.
Yeah, it is. Like, because Midge, they have like the ventriloquist and Imogen and stuff going on, but then they have the scene on the merry-go-round, which is just, it just looks beautiful. It's just shot beautifully of them going around, and obviously very symbolic for what's about to happen in their relationship. They're going to go around and end up where they were, or are they not? And basically Joel is, you know, he's left Penny, he's doing everything to provide for them, and she thinks it's time to get divorced. And he says, you know, he will do whatever she thinks is best, because he's so like trodden down at this point. And they come home together and their hands get entangled, and then they fuck. And Joel starts seeing the parts of Midge that she was keeping hidden before. And I have to give him extra point, because it's not like any of that turns him away or anything. It's almost like he actually might be like appreciating seeing more of the real person underneath, which is a great thing for actually starting to maybe like him a bit more, as we need to at this point for the story, because like all these little things of her just eating a lot and not caring that he sees her eating everything, and he's like, what? And like the bra that she was always, when we were together, I always unhooked every other clasp of my bra, so you wouldn't feel bad when you couldn't open it, or maybe. And he's like, what did you think I was gonna get bored? What? He's like, maybe, I don't know. So none of that actually turns him away. He's just kind of like, what's going on here? And in a way, it's almost like their relationship previously didn't feel completely real, in part because of those things. So that's interesting.
Yes, yeah, and it's such a simple little moment, but when he says, "Is this how you always looked in the morning?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's not said in like a flippant, like it's not in a like an insulting way. It's just kind of a nice little nod, and like you said, is it a sign that, you know, things are more real and but still like getting better, possibly? Like I know. I'm sure a lot of people, you know, just hate Joel or whatever, or it's, you know, it's kind of hard to root for him. But I feel like the show did a good enough job where I was still rooting for him sometimes. I still wanted him to not just give up when things got a little tough. But, you know, we'll see how that might work out.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of. I mean, it's hard to hate any. Like Gilmore Girls character or any character in this show, really, because they do a good job of not making anyone like, okay, this is the antagonist only. Like they make them well-rounded characters most of the time. Anyway, it's very rare that, I mean, if someone does, it's not like a main character, someone who pops in and is a jerk. The guy who, I mean, if you're talking about flat characters, at the end of the episode, there's a guy who just says, "Women aren't funny." So I mean, they can't do that, but with a main character, they're not going to do that. So
yeah, and I think we see a lot, like a lot of the same things that were, you know, like holding Midge back. It was very similar to Joel. Like Joel had a lot of the, like, between seeing like his dad and how his dad taught him to always try to keep up appearances. So he was also just doing things that he didn't necessarily want to do and getting stuck, you know, in a lot of the same ways that Midge was. I mean, obviously Midge is way better, and Midge is kind of too good for him still, but I still root for him.
Yeah. And
Kristen in the chat saying Joel stinks, get out of town, you two. No, I don't think it's as cut and dry as that.
well, I mean, he is the villain, and
Definitely the budding villain for sure. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of gray area there.
Kristen also wrote that her only qualm was, how did nobody notice her picture in the newspaper article? And I actually pulled it up right now because you can kind of glimpse it in the episode when the newspaper folds over. So let me just screen cap that real quick. Actually, I can screen share. That's technology we have. If you're not on the freaking if you're not on the video feed, you can't see it. But yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. There it is. You can see the head there. But it's very, I mean, it says Amanda Gleason or whatever, right? On the thing.
I can't see it. Are you sharing it? I can't see it.
Okay, well, maybe if I hit this button. Sorry about that. Now you can see it, yes? There's a shot.
Yeah, now I see it. I got it.
And, I mean, it's her head, kind of. I mean, I think they say in the script that it's blurry or whatever. So, and also no one knows her name. It's going to be interesting in episode 1 if they're going to be of season 2 when she actually calls herself the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or whatever. It's like, well, now the jig is up.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I could buy that. I don't recall what they said, which newspaper that was, but I imagine her parents are the sort of people who read very specific newspapers, and the type that would put a picture of a head on a plate with a fork sticking out of it is not the type that they would read.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. I mean, how do I fucking stop this thing? Okay, there we go. All right, I'm back. My face should be in shot any moment. There we go. Okay. That's a short, small detail, but anyway, back to the actual plot of the story. We get the fun time morning escape out the window, just like when they were kids. It's like a lot of comedy derived from them acting as children in this season, and that's another great one of those. And also Zelda, the housekeeper, just kind of, oh yeah, the coffee smells great. She's the only one who actually realizes what's going on.
Yeah. So how are you not rooting for Joel? Come on, you got to root for him, even though you know he's going to let you down, but you still got to root for him.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we'll get into the actual ending in a moment, but Joel is in a great mood at work here, and they're plotting this meeting they're going to have to get the chemical plant or whatever the fuck. And I mean, yeah, as you said, you got to root for him, but like an idiot, he just tells anyone, getting back together with the missus. Like, come on, Joel. And that's where you're like, Joel, for fuck's sake. But no, he has to, like, spill the beans on that, even though it's not a sure thing at all. I mean, I guess he kind of says, like, maybe, you never know. But he just can't hold it in, because now it's a done deal for Joel. He's got his plan and everything. And in a way, he's not wrong, because we have Midge a bit later. She's back to measuring herself like she did when they were together, like, still got it, and telling her dad and everything. And it's all up to Joel how he deals with this situation now. And I gotta assume I don't know. It's a great place that they end the episode at anyway.
Yeah. Well, first, before we get to that, they have a shit gig at a strip club, and they're all getting ready for it. But, word came down, they're blackballed. No strip club gig.
Yeah.
And then also Susie goes back to the Gaslight, and the owner's there. No, what's her stage name currently?
Amanda Gleason, I think.
No Amanda Gleason. No Amanda Gleason allowed at the Gaslight either. Her home club. Now she's not even allowed to perform there.
Yeah, and she's like, Susie doesn't even pick the performers anymore. She's got to work the doors for a bit, which is like, oh my gosh.
And then to add insult to injury, Midge is at her day job. And then Penny rolls in to cause a big scene because even though Penny slept with Midge's husband, now Midge slept with her husband, and she doesn't like it. What's good for the goose ain't good for the gander.
I mean, it's a funny scene in itself, but like Midge, you're kind of like, well, she's saying like, well, you're making this too easy. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to say to you at this point because it's so ridiculous what's happening right now. But at the same time, it's not like it's a positive experience for her. She also gets called away to talk to the manager lady or whatever. So it's all bad stuff happening, as makes sense structurally at this point.
Yeah, and then Joel, you know, he's still living high on life, and he had saw a couple of the comedy records in Midge's room, so he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna go check out the record store as well." And as the audience were like, "Uh-oh, uh-oh," and of course, when Joel rolls through, they're in the midst of listening to Mrs. X at the Gaslight, and it's, you know, can't really be denied who we're hearing on this tape they're playing, because even names are dropped. And as we know, Joel is not going to handle this well.
No, of course he's not. He also even goes to the Gaslight and tries to get a time to perform, and he doesn't get one. But he's like, "I'm going to be back tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after." And then he goes to get the party record, and freaks out. Of course, Joel. I mean, is there a universe where he handled that more smoothly? What do you think?
No. Well, like, again, when I'm saying that I root for him, I'm not saying he's good. Like, I know he's, like I said at the beginning of the show, he's a schmuck. I know he stinks, but it's kind of like when you want, like, you're hoping someone will, like, realize, like, the error of their ways type deal and become a better person. That's what I mean when I'm just, they make me at least want him to figure it out. Maybe because he's so pathetic. I don't know. But
yeah. So, the next scene, he's at work. And this presentation that he was so jazzed for when he was telling everyone it was all smooth sailing from here, he's totally messing up the presentation. And I was even like, no, don't mess up the presentation, Joel. Don't do that too, Joel. But then he just quits as well and walks out. And it's like, okay, I thought he would have quit when he was saying he wanted to be a stand-up, but now he quits because he has nothing in his life anymore. So good job, Joel.
Yeah, and then now I didn't quite follow this logic now, because since Midge is barred from the Gaslight, they go to Lenny Bruce. Is it just because Lenny Bruce is that big of a name? If he says, "I want this person," they have to do it? I was trying to follow what.
No, because I understood it as the actual owner is not there. So, like, this is their last gig. Susie's gonna get fired for this. That's how I understood it. Like, or maybe Lenny Bruce's star power. Sorry, what did you say?
I'm sorry to cut you off. So is it more about just packing the audience and having her do well, so she becomes more of a demand? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah.
Because everyone's there for Lenny Bruce, so it's like way more packed than it would be. And if she does well, those people might say like, "Oh, hey, where's, Mrs. Maisel? We want to see Mrs. Maisel again."
Yes, I think so, and maybe that would, work out so that she isn't fired, because even if Harry blackballs him or whatever, like, Susie just booked you Lenny Bruce, so, like, chill out, Mr. Owner. We just sold more than ever before, even if Harry's not on our good side right now. We don't have Lenny Bruce every night, but we got Mrs. Maisel, and everyone loves her, so.
It's just a little tough. I mean, I guess we know Midge is that good. But it's also it's kind of a tough pill to swallow to think if an audience was showing up for Lenny Bruce, no matter how good the young unknown comic is, if he's like, "Here's this person, sorry," it's hard to think that people wouldn't just be like, "Boo!" Like, especially if they were really trying to set up the idea that she was going to bomb opening for a big comic. Never mind like a kind of weird bait and switch. That's just what. Logically, it didn't quite fit for me, but I guess I get it. I get what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite like that's true. That it's not like oh, the fucking headhunter's here now, and if you do well tonight, it's gonna be. So it's kind of like it's not so much of a concrete thing of what they're gonna get out of doing well this night.
Like, imagine at a small club, everyone's like, Dave Chappelle's gonna be at this club, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, Dave Chappelle, are you fucking serious?" Everyone shows up, and Dave Chappelle's like, "Hey, everybody, this here is John Redmond." And then John Redmond comes up, the marvelous Mrs. Redmond, and I don't know, is he going to kill in front of that audience? I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm not 100% on, because my imagining was, they're going to do great, and then they're going to be able to book other places, and all these people are going to know who she is. And also, they did change the name. They were saying earlier that it was Amanda Gleason that was barred, not Mrs. Maisel. So maybe it all works out in the end. But then why couldn't she perform as Mrs. Maisel to regular people? Because they would recognize her? I'm not sure. But it gets us a great climactic scene anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. Even though I'm a little lost in the logic and what I'm supposed to be thinking is the plan, it's still an amazing, like, episode ender / season, because everything's coming to a head and Joel's in the crowd. And it's interesting because Midge does understand, at least in her world or what have you, because like in the last episode when she's like, I'm going to give my mother a break, because she didn't want to like sit and goof on her mom. So she kind of does understand, like, if someone saw her act and she's talking about them on stage, they're not going to really get it. They're just going to see it as she's shit talking them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So now here we have that happen. Joel's there, but he's seeing her, like, not only that, not only is not only is she airing out their dirty laundry, but she's doing amazing. And he could see that. And I love that they hammered that home, that he knew she was good. And like, that's almost worse, on top of the fact that like she's goofing on him,
Yeah, it's a long scene, and we sort of follow his perspective through the gaslight, walking around. Because at first, even just like him wanting to be a comic, and in a way, I understand the perspective of like, what if I introduce my friend to a band and they were always like, nah, that kind of sounds like shit or whatever, and then I finally get him to listen to it, and then like a few months later they're the drummer in the band, and I'm like, I was the guy, it was me, that was my thing. And she's the one, he gets to walk in and she's talking to Lenny Bruce over there. They're just hanging out. And even if the showrunners don't ship them, like, what the fuck is Joel gonna think when he sees them talking over there? And then him on stage saying how great and funny this person is. So, like, all the frustration makes sense. And like, so he lashes out at Susie, who's there, and like tries to blame it on her, but and like says, you ruined my life, like you did this, and she shuts him down and like, no, you did that yourself, like I didn't sleep with your secretary, and all that. And like, I think, like, as you were saying, we want him to get it. And then even when there's a guy heckler, women aren't funny, and he follows him out, even then I'm kind of thinking that he doesn't get it, but he punches the guy and wants to fuck him up because of all the frustration. But it's not just that his like weird machismo is getting in the way. His lines are heartbreaking when he just keeps repeating, she's good, she's good, like not fighting her because of insulting his wife, really, or in part, but also like, no, you're wrong, she is funny, even though he's the one getting torn apart on stage. So that's kind of heartbreaking. And that, I mean, I did say in our first episode, by the end of the season we're going to be on board with Joel. I mean, he's still a schmuck, but I'm on board with Joel after that.
Yeah, it's such it's just so good. Like, I know, like, when you listen to, if you're listening to this show, you don't want to just hear someone say like, this is good. Like, it's just hard to really, it's so well done. And then he's just kind of staggering down the street like, no, she's good. And he means it, and it like hurts because she's better than him. And like, she's kind of always been better than him. Like, we as the audience know that, but he's realizing that. Like, it's such a, like, for 8 episodes, like for a culmination of the episodes, it's such an amazing ending. And then we get the, thank you everybody, I'm Mrs. Maisel. And then I'm like I literally just, I'm sitting there watching it, and then it ends, and I go, just to no one, as I'm watching it by myself, like, what a fucking great show.
Yeah. One interesting thing about it is that, like, these last few scenes, they're kind of all about Joel. And that's why that moment really works, because, we even get a flashback to their wedding where Midge hired dancers, and all of that stuff. But basically, it's, these few scenes are mainly about Joel. The final scenes that we kind of skipped over to get to the climax, we have one scene she gets with each of her parents, and that's kind of Midge's ending for the season. And Joel actually gets his ending after that, and it's a much bigger scene, which is really interesting, because Midge is kind of, with everything going on with Susie, and with Sophie Lennon, and like, she's kind of had her arc at this point, so that's why we tap into what's going on with Joel here. Because there's a couple of scenes, and the first one is when she's telling Abe, and I want to remember, because it's easy to forget that in Midge's mind, she's still up for getting back together with Joel at this point, because that's like the last thing going on here. So that's what I meant when I was saying that it's up to him now how he handles this, and I'm sure it's gonna fuck it up, but that's kind of where she's at. So the first of these parent scenes is with her father when she says they're probably gonna get back together, and I believe we have it lined up to play right now.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that Joel and I might be getting back together.
Are you kidding me? After what you put your mother and me through, you have the nerve to come in here and tell me you're getting back together? She's not speaking to me. She took my study. Look at me. Look at what I have to do every single day because you wouldn't let Joel come back.
I'm sorry.
No.
No, what?
No, I forbid it.
You forbid me to get back together with my husband?
Yes, I forbid it. You have laid waste to everyone and everything around you. It's been like a typhoon. The Red Cross should start handing out blankets. You have ruined everybody's life. And now that there's no more havoc to wreak, you want to get back together and be happy. No, you don't get to be happy until I can get to my piano.
Papa, I am so sorry. I really am. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't mean to upset your lives.
Ugh.
I've just missed him so much. I miss being married. I miss having someone to laugh with. Someone next to me at night.
Are you sure?
I love him.
God damn it!
Great stuff. Now it's interesting though, because as the audience, we don't really see that all the time. We don't see Midge missing being. I don't know. It doesn't always come across that way because it seems like she's just having the time of her life, being a stand-up.
That's true. I mean, we did have her falling apart a couple of episodes ago, and in a way, I'm sure she misses the normalcy of it more. And obviously, when they slept together and actually realizing that she might be able to be more of herself around him. I mean, we cut the scene off, but there's the great bit first where he goes, "God damn it," and then like, "I'm fine." God damn it. But also then they start talking about change because she says, "I don't know if this will happen even," and she's like, "Don't fucking do this right now." And she says, "I'm a different person now, and he might not like who I actually am," and that's and he starts talking about change in marriage, and it's a great scene. I mean, I would love to watch all of it, but at that point we're just watching the show. But yeah, it is true that she hasn't really been heartbroken as such, but maybe that's because we've mostly seen her frustrations channeled into great stand-up. So, like, she's spitting fire on stage. That doesn't mean she's not breaking apart inside, as we saw with Susie there. But the real question is, does she really want Joel, or is she just kind of like wanting not to feel the pain she's feeling?
Yeah, just the kind of the safety of the familiar. And yeah, I mean, and the scene with her mom is great as well because, I mean, her mom through a lot of it is kind of played up as a goof, like we're laughing at her going to the fortune teller and the ridiculous lengths she goes through to hide the truth. But, as we see in these last few episodes, just being left out of the loop and, not feeling that her family trusts her, it's really taking a toll on like her, like where she's at.
Yeah, because her mother tries weekly to sort of connect, like, let's go and I don't remember what, but like, let's go and do this together. And she's like, "Oh, right. Well, I can't right now." And she's like, "Well, I didn't mean right now, but okay." But she knows everything is different now because, Midge is going out and she's like, "Oh, but you won't tell me where you're going. Or if you do, you're just going to lie to me."
Yep. And
yeah, so that's the thing, that it's more about her being completely left out of everything. And we did see in the earlier episodes that, like, how this deterioration started because they were the ones always going to the kitchen and sharing a drink of port or whatever it is they pour out in small glasses when things are going crazy. Like, they are the ones who actually are connected because she used to be a clone of her mother and she's becoming something completely different. Midge says, "I'm still your daughter." And her mother's last line in the show for this season is that dress needs pearls. So it's great writing and great like talking about different things at each other, but also talking about the same things and not being able to fully connect. That's a great place to leave off for the season.
Absolutely. So I mean, I don't know what other things we can say are great about this show, but
I'm sure we'll think of something for next week's episode of Maiselman. Weekly, everybody. We're doing it every week.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is that then? Was there any other parting thoughts you had?
There is, because we've said it before and we'll say it again. Every show needs fan fiction, but The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel needs fan fiction more than any show, because when you go to Archive of Our Own, there's one, Jim. There's only one fic. What the fic, man? There's just one. This show, it's Susie slash fucking Midge one, of course, because that's going to be the main ship.
Yeah, that'll
clearly. That'll be the main ship. And second's going to be Lenny Bruce. But they didn't specify, and they, as the originators, they get to decide the name, I guess. But I commented and I wrote, great fic. I didn't read it yet, but, you know, for great fic, what would you call the Midge slash Susie ship name? Pretty sure you get to name it since you're first. Let's see if they answered, and they have not. So at that point, I was like, okay, we're going to Tumblr, because if Archive of Our Own doesn't pan out, there's always Tumblr. So let me pull up what I found here, if I could have it. Yeah, okay. Here's fan art. It's a picture of Susie and Midge, and the description is that height difference though. And then asterisk flips table over the height difference. Because did you know people are really into height difference in their ships? Because that's adorable when one is shorter.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if they were against it or for it. So they're for the height difference.
I can only assume they're flipping the table in excitement, or because it was difficult to get them on the same page with one being shorter. But I think it's excitement. So this person, Molly's Art on Tumblr, writes, I'm calling them Midgey. I don't IDK what anyone else is doing. What do the other 5 people in the world who ship them think?
Midgey's not bad, actually. It's better than I had Sazel.
Well, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure I have the best one, which I came up with, and I don't want to like trot on this person's toes because they were the first ones, and that kind of makes them, you know, the Columbus or the Vikings of the ship. But I propose this. Smidge.
I like it.
Need I say more? If you can get it to be a word, that just makes it more, it has more staying power. There's puns to be made. Just a smidge, you know? It could be a Smidge Week, Smidge Saturday. There's so many possibilities.
I think Smidge is good.
Thank you.
I'm for it. I'm here for it.
Good. So that's the main ship. As I mentioned, I'm sure the secondary one will be Midge / Lenny Bruce. Even if it's not in the show, that's, you know, they hinted enough. It's hot enough. And I don't know if you have any ideas on Midge / Lenny, but I went with Many. M-E-N-E-N-Y. I mean, it's nothing's going to be as good as Smidge on my list. I'm not saying these are fantastic, but
Midge, you nailed it. Like, that's going from sea to shining sea for sure.
Yeah.
It's weird because I have to keep remembering that Maisel's not really, like, it's not her last name.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're shipping someone with Joel.
Well, speaking of shipping someone with Joel, when we ship Midge and Joel, Mole.
Yeah, Mole for sure.
Good.
But it's not spelled like Mole. It's spelled like Joel, but with an M.
Yeah, of course. Like, see, you get it. That's why it's a good one. I
think Many is it, or I don't know if you keep her Maisel since she is Mrs. Maisel on stage. I guess it could be Brazel for Lenny Bruce and Midge Maisel.
Brazel? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, I would be remiss.
And Mole.
Sorry. Oh yeah, it's Midge, Maisel, and let me add that to the Google Doc.
What about the people out there shipping Susie and Lenny Bruce?
Well, that one's not even on my list yet. Susie, Lenny. Slenny. I don't know.
No, that's it. Done and done. Slenny.
Okay. Well, I mean, more importantly, I think Joel and Lenny is going to be bigger than...
Oh, yes.
Because obviously Smidge is canon. So Joel and Lenny are left at the sides. Who are they going to ship with? Each other, of course. They're dudes.
Yeah, that's Jenny. Definitely
Yep.
Jenny, dude.
See, you got your...
Never
you
do
got
it. You got to do it.
You really like you first pitch and you're like, yeah, you got it. You didn't dip your toe, you jumped straight in. I like it. We got Jenny. Now, of course,
I mean, I know we've been going long. How long have we been going?
I checked. It was a while. It's been a while. But hey, there's more ships. We can run through them pretty. It can be a lightning round. Imogen/Midge. That's going to be a thing. I propose Imogen with Midge in the middle there. Imogen.
Yes, absolutely.
Rose and Abe. Just Robe, I guess.
Yeah, that works.
Penny and Midge is that's Penny Pax and Midge. You know, that's a niche one, but it's going to be there, and it should be Pidge.
Pidge? That's Penny and Midge.
Yeah, because it can't be many, because that's the Lenny and her. So I think that's Susie and Joel. That would be Soul.
Yeah, it would definitely be Soul.
Like
I found an article here that's supposedly talking about Mrs. Maisel's Gilmore Girls Easter eggs. And I guess
you mean that it's a great writing?
They talk about how in Gilmore Girls, Emily revealed the details she had planned for Lorelai's wedding that she never got to plan. Yours was going to be a Russian winter theme. It would have been beautiful. And then Midge's Maisel's wedding, a Russian winter wonderland theme. Everything was white. There were trees painted like they were covered with snow, Midge told her friends.
Yeah, and we saw it even. Did they say anything about hiring Jewish dancers in Gilmore Girls?
No. And then here's another one. Luke is yelling at Lorelai about kids, saying that kids always have their hands are always sticky, like they got jam on their hands. And then when Susie goes to Midge's house and has to hold Ethan's hand, he says, "Why is his hand sticky? Why is your hand sticky?"
That's true. That is in there.
That's a good.
Those are good. Yeah.
Couple call outs for you.
They're good because they don't ruin anything in the show. The wedding flashback is almost the most kind of redundant thing to put in there, but I guess it's to get us into Midge's head as she's kind of measuring herself and getting back into, like, yeah, this is what we are. This is who I'm going to be. And I mean, it goes together with her finally adopting the name Mrs. Maisel in the comedy thing, even though they probably won't end up back together anyway.
Yeah. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I kind of wanted her to say Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but
Yeah.
Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah. So speaking of that, until next season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, please go to, we have maiselmen.com, right?
Yes, maiselmen.com. Go to showswhatyouknow.com.
Yeah.
And if you have any comments about Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, because it's not to say that we won't do another Maisel Men before the next seasons. Because if you have comments, if you have anything you'd like to add, please send an email to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard. We can't do a post-mortem like we sometimes do, because now I get what all the people are commenting on my YouTube. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. I can't think of any way to improve this show, so I don't know what... I guess we'll talk more about how we love it. We'll review different fanfics. We'll rec you some fanfic, recommend you some fanfic. It's all manner of possibilities, but it's all on the gushing side, which we so rarely get to do, and it's so nice, because we are always... Like, I know we're talking about being cynical assholes, but... when something's this good, I don't even know. If you didn't watch it yet, we're silly for listening to this, but now please do go and enjoy The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You will not regret it. It is one of the best shows of 2018, if not the best. Check it out. I mean, you probably already did, but you know what we're saying. For more from Jim, please do go to jimandthem.com. For more from me, there's awesomepedia.org. We also have YouTube channels with the same names, Jim and Them and Awesomepedia. And there you'll find all manner of non-Mrs. Maisel related content from us. Or there's maiselmen.com. I guess that sums it up. Please do leave a comment or send an email to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com. And there's also, of course, our Twitter, showswhatyouknow. You spelt with the letter U. That's it.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.